It's the Brian and Kendra Show with Brian Cook and Kendra Cox of Keller Williams Realty Elite.
I am Kendra Cox.
I'm Brian Cook.
Between the two of us, we have over 30 years of experience.
Sharing real estate tips and advice. Right here on Classic Hits 1073.
All right, so the closing process. You get us started. I have to respond to this text.
Okay, you do that. So, how to prepare for closing. So, the big day. So, obviously, most people have lending and mortgages, and so your lending company is going to send you a mortgage disclosure form. That mortgage disclosure form, so I had one emailed to me today to verify some things. They were like, oh my gosh, there's this, I didn't think I was going to have to bring any money to closing, but it shows $1,700 on here, and I don't have $1,700, and they were kind of freaking out. And so I read through it, and I said, well, it says check to buyer for $1,700, not check from buyer for $1,700. So, which is crazy that people get paid at closing, but it happens.
It does happen. So let's real quick talk about why that would happen, which isn't really what I wanted to focus on, but since that is kind of a foreign idea, if you have a 100% loan,
taking you back to when
seller paying some of your closing cost, and then combine that with you prepay your appraisal, you prepaid for your home inspection, you prepaid for your termite inspection, there's a good possibility you're going to get money back at closing.
Right.
And so so that's why that would happen,
right.
Just to help explain that.
Yep.
Okay, so first things first, how to prepare for closing.
So once you get that mortgage disclosure, you'll review it, make sure it's what you kind of agreed on, and remember being agreed on how much your interest rate's going to be, what the terms of your loan, 15-year, 30-year. Make sure your insurance is what you agreed to. So all that comes through on that form. That's all referred to as the closing costs. So that form will come through just to check all that before you get to closing. It gives you usually get that 2 days in advance. Supposed to,
2
I
or
think
3 days.
2 or 3 days, which then gives you time to change. So if you see something on there that doesn't look fishy, that looks fishy, call your lender, have us look at it, whatever, and then you can get it fixed at that time. So that's step one. As you, this is like, I don't know, 3 days. This is the 3 days within closing probably.
And sometimes they're sooner than that. So this one that I'm so excited about for next week, the lender, I believe she sent the closing disclosure a few days ago already.
Yep.
And now we have clear to close, but we're not actually closing till next Wednesday. So sometimes the lender is able to send those prematurely, so then they don't have to worry about that deadline because they know what the fees are going to be, and it's a simple process for them. So you may receive that even a week in advance, even a few days before getting your clear to close. So clear to close means that your lender and the underwriters, everybody has gone through the process and made sure that all of the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. This is when they may be asking for extra information. Hey, we noticed this weird deposit on your bank statement. We need a letter of explanation about that. Those will make us cranky. Quite frankly, they are a little bit stressful on buyers, but they're just part of it, and it's not a big deal. Just get them written, send them back in. We get the clear to close, and then that's when you for sure will have a closing disclosure at that point.
Right.
So then, what happens next? The closer puts it all into a statement.
Yes. So the HUD settlement one statement.
So
HUD one settlement statement.
And they don't even say HUD one anymore.
No.
I totally just corrected you on the air, and I'm really only half sorry about it.
That's okay, because if you read it is a HUD form.
It is. It's so bizarre. But whenever
form.
we say, and so it was a HUD one, and then it was an ALTA, and now it's actually a form that the closer doesn't have to use, but they do really kind of to dumb it down for us, I think, don't you?
I think so.
It's a nice, simple form that makes everything super clean.
All on one page type deal.
By the time that we get that, I finally get to review that, usually a couple of days before closing, and it should mirror that closing. It will mirror the closing disclosure.
Correct.
Once in a while, I still find an error, but usually those are dead on. Usually I only find errors on the seller side.
Right.
Do you agree?
Yes. I mean, the banks, the buyer side is so regulated.
Oh, man.
It's nearly impossible to have a mistake at that point in the game.
If there is a mistake, it's usually impossible to correct. Like
it's
usually we're going to move right on,
yeah.
And you can pay that termite inspection outside of closing is usually what will happen.
Yep.
So, all right. So that closing statement, whenever I get the nice clean form, then I send that to the buyer and I send it to the seller and I say, this is just for your review. We're not taking any action. We're going to sign everything at closing. And that way, I just think it helps so that they have a couple more days to really review and make sure they understand what's going on. Right. So that's how that works. Okay. Next up is my favorite. you're always worried that we're going to run out of time today. I'm like, are we going to make it to the end of the show? Like
you talk a lot. You'll be fine.
That's really rude, isn't it,
No,
guys? So
it's
rude.
honest.
Well,
Right?
I read this really cool thing today about, it's not that you don't have a filter, it's that you just don't care how other people feel. It's fine. I'm fine. Okay, so this is my favorite, final walkthrough.
Okay.
This can be kind of tense. What is final walkthrough?
That's where we go check everything that's on the house, make sure it was as it was when you purchased it, and then we do a final walkthrough.
Normal wear and tear?
Normal wear and tear is acceptable.
I couldn't come up with the word. Thanks. Okay, go ahead.
And then you're also checking repairs. So if you had some repairs done in the house, then they will do a kind of a final check. So, like if you have to fix, like we've had to fix a whole bunch of stuff on a house over on the east side of town.
Right.
And so when they do their final walkthrough, it's going to take a while because the list was very long, like 20 things. And so
what we try to do then, I'm not very good about getting this printed anymore, but we always have that document on our phone or the inspection. And then we can run through with the buyer and say, you asked for this, we can see that it was repaired. You asked for this, we can see that it was repaired. So that they have a little more security that they're getting what they paid for and what they contracted for.
Correct. And so that's and then, so horror story. I was selling my brother's house a few years back.
I don't know that I really want to hear your horror stories today.
And so he calls me like he waited to the last minute to move out. He called me and said, hey, I know we're closing tomorrow, but when we moved the master bed, we found where we spilled the paint when we painted the bedroom. But we thought the bed's going to be there, so who cares? And then they didn't remember. So day of closing, of course, I immediately called the other agent and said, hey,
Funny story, guys.
Hope you're not moving in like first thing. So, funny thing is they're
bonus,
like,
you get new carpet.
Yeah, bonus, you're going to repaint, right? Yeah, they'll give you a few days. Who cares if you spill paint? And so, luckily we have good connections and good people around town. And
it was pre-COVID, so you could still get carpet.
It was fast. So I actually called my guy immediately and said, hey, do you have a 12 by 13 piece of carpet laying around that's pretty decent and nice and this color? And he said yes. And I said, can you lay it? He goes, I'll be there at 8 a.m. I said, great. So yes, there are some things that just you don't think about. You move the couch and think, oh, I didn't paint behind the couch. We see the craziest things.
Okay, so funny story about that. Another agent, when they bought their home in Woodward, used a different agent. So they were then a buyer, not an agent, using a different agent, not with our company. Loved the house, went through it, thought it was great, contracted on it. When they went to final walkthrough, the baseboards did not go behind where the sofa was.
Oh, God.
And so it was the funniest story to hear them talking to one another about, hey, remember my final walkthrough when we went through and then there was only half the baseboards and half the paint and all this. I mean, the funniest stories ever, except it's not funny if you're the buyer.
Right, because
it's a little
we're the
stressful
seller
if
and
you're
you got
the
to have
buyer.
it fixed.
Oh my goodness. So we try really hard to do final walkthroughs the day, sometimes even a couple of days. You really like to do them a couple of days before closing.
Days, if I can.
Unfortunately, you've got a really sorry secretary.
When you're and then people are moving. It's always last minute lately. Everything's been
It's
last
so hard.
minute. If their house is vacant, man, we'll go 3-4 days in advance. As soon as the TRR repairs are done, we'll try to go do a final walkthrough.
Right.
Get all that out of the way, and then when we close the house, we go over the day of, make sure there's not 3 inches of water in the house or something crazy.
Seriously. So
Been there.
So like tonight we've got one. They're moving out. They moved out yesterday. They're trying to have it cleaned today. It's a pretty big house. The final walkthrough is at 8:00 in the morning. Closing's at 2. And so the seller's like, guys, I'm afraid to schedule the final walkthrough at 8 a.m. What if we don't get it clean on Thursday? And we're like, then we're going dirty. Like, it'll be fine because we need to get in there and give the buyer their opportunity to make sure everything is the same.
Right.
Better than would be awesome, of course, but for sure the same. But you said something a minute ago that reminded me not very long ago, and we talked about it on the radio too then, but I think it's important. We had a final walkthrough, and I went to it. You were somewhere gallivanting around. I was doing all the work, just like always.
Napping.
You're probably at the spa. Okay, so the utility space is in the garage, and when the seller had disconnected the washer and dryer, the washer valves were not working properly, and so that whole wall needed.
Wet.
We had to replace all the sheetrock, dry out the Insulation.
Pull insulation out.
Thank goodness we went the day before. If we'd have found that at 8 o'clock in the morning, that poor buyer and I probably would have had heart attacks.
Yep.
So it's important. We want to do those ahead of schedule.
Yep.
So, all right. Also, with the final walkthrough, I'm just going to go ahead and say, this is when it's so exciting and fun, and we want to do your sold picture.
Yes.
Like, this is like my favorite part. I was talking to another agent in our office. I love the sold pics. Like, I love them so much. I ran across them from whenever I'd started real estate and started taking them. Like Flora at Woodward County Abstract, I ran across her sold picture. She's not in it because actually she was having a baby. And so it was just her husband and her other kids that were in her sold picture. That was like from 2011 or 2013. It's so exciting to go back and see those and to be able, so like some of those, I'm like, why do we even still have this? And I run it in. Hey, look what I found. It's exciting. It is so exhausting to buy a home. And this is a fun way to help, because once it's all finished, and almost always everybody's happy and it's exciting and it's such a milestone, and we want to help you to remember it. So it seems so cheesy, but I'm telling you, I think it's important.
Yeah, most people love it after, even if they're
it's
like,
not
don't take my picture.
But I try hard.
Yeah. Don't take my picture. But once we get it done, and then like next year, like on Facebook, he'll show up again and they'll be like, hey, what a great day. They'll have good memories of that.
It's so fun. Okay, you guys, we're back. The Brian and Kendra Show. I'm Kendra, you're Brian. I'm excited because I have a plan.
Okay, let's hear it.
I've been wanting to get a little bit bigger of a house, but I mean, because I love my little tiny house, but I don't want more of a payment is really what it comes down to. But I have this house identified that I've kind of had my eyeball on for, I don't know, 6 months maybe. And every once in a while I'll be like, I really wish I could have that house. I really wish I could. And I really can't. But it just occurred to me that I'll just rent out a couple of rooms.
Just rent out the house and stay in your room.
So I'll rent out the house and I'll just stay in the master bedroom. Nobody know I'm there. I'll be quiet once in a while. I'll make a pie. It'll be fine. And I can afford the mortgage. I'm going to sell my house soon, you guys.
So.
No? Can I do it?
I don't know. Probably. Does it have smoke alarms?
And they probably work too. I just said I'd only bake a pie.
Okay,
I won't do any cooking. I will not set off the fire alarms. I'll be kind of quiet. Unfortunately, I wake up really early and I'm not quiet in the morning.
We could put a separate door in. You could
have to leave in and out of the
then
master
they can't
bedroom.
get the garage, right? You get the garage.
Yeah, because Bernice needs to be inside.
So yeah, so you're going to rent all of the house, but
Bernice.
the master suite and the garage.
Yeah, like, hey, do you know it's like a year ago I got Bernice ordered, and like this was the waiting and intense time. And it was so exciting. Oh my gosh, yes. Haven't quite had Bernice a year yet. Wow. Oh, I love Bernice. Okay.
I had mine pick up a year, but it was sitting in the shop already.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. All right, so if you're a buyer, an important thing to remember during your entire process, not just closing, don't take on more debt. Don't use your credit card. Don't go buy furniture yet. Don't buy your refrigerator. Don't take on more debt. It can negatively affect your closing and completely shut everything down. All right, closing day. Super exciting day.
Yes.
So Woodward County Abstract is one of our sponsors. Bank 7 is one of our sponsors. And man, they work together really beautifully for closings. And they both are going to need some different things. So Bank 7 has some documents, and they're going to take those or send those actually to closing. Woodward County Abstract is going to have everything ready for you to sign. But when you come in the door, they're going to need 2 forms of ID. You need to make sure you are who you say you are. They have to do everything perfectly because they have to notarize all these documents. And then the closing process. This is when everybody starts getting kind of gripey. Yeah. How many pages do you think they sign? Sign here, initial here, sign here, date here. Yes. Oh, you forgot your middle initial. Go back and do it again. On all 1,700 pages. So, okay, my favorite.
It's like a 2 or 3 inch stack sometimes. It's crazy.
The longest one I ever saw was a VA loan. Oh, man. And the guy's wife was actually the mortgage and she was in Iraq or Afghanistan, and so he was having to sign everything for her as power of attorney. So he had to sign.
POA. Oh, God.
Yes, it was insane. Yeah, that's the only one I've ever seen because usually lenders don't really allow that to happen, but obviously special circumstance. It was the longest. It was the biggest packet I've ever seen at closing. I think we were there for the whole hour. Usually buyers are done in 20, 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And he read them. He read a lot of the documents. And I thought, oh my gosh, we're never going to get out of here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
All right. So that's that. What do you have to say?
That's crazy. Okay. Utilities is another one that kind of jumps out at us. So sellers want to hurry and get their utilities cut off, and the buyers want to, get them turned on. But some of these companies won't let you just transfer and do. And if you're in another house,
Right.
they want to transfer them, but you're still moving out, so you need your utilities on both things for one day, and so all that gets kind of messy. So you kind of need to plan that out. Sometimes our sellers are gracious to give the whole weekend before they kill power.
Absolutely.
And then that way you can have your power transferred on Monday and your other one shut off Monday and get moved over the weekend. And so like the city of Woodward, they have, their system is very strict. You have to take a copy of the deed or a copy of a lease agreement down there that shows you are the legal person to get water put on in your name.
Right. So we literally are like, as soon as we leave closing, we're like, okay, go down to the city offices.
And if it's Friday at noon, whoops.
If it's Friday at noon, we try really hard to remember ahead of time to send a notice to the city of Woodward so they don't turn it off.
Right.
So you have a couple of extra.
So they give us a form that we can do that for. The other thing is don't spend we're almost out of time, but don't spend any money.
No.
Don't go buy new furniture the day of closing, before closing, or the week of closing, or after you sign the contract. Quit buying anything.
Right.
Save your money. Don't buy furniture. You can go pick it out. Go pick out the car. Go pick out the house. Go pick out the wife.
I'll help you.
Whatever you want to do. Did I say that?
I'm not going to help you pick out your wife.
I already have one, but I'm just saying.
Where'd that go?
Just if you're picking stuff out, don't
Furniture.
do not get married.
I want to help you with your
the
furniture
day before closing.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yep. Thank you.